Thank you for the show of spirit. Thank you for your solidarity. Thank you, Sharon, for being such a wonderful host. And thank you, Jim. I'm very grateful for all the work that you do and for your leadership in a very difficult time. Thank you. I'm going to begin with a poem about drone warfare. I have a series of poems on drone warfare. This one is written in the voice of a drone operator. And it's called Scheherazade Appears in a Drone Operator's Dream. It's a breathless poem, there's no punctuation. So I'm going to take a deep breath and begin. I want to see the tray of fresh loaves magnified, but the controls are frozen, and all the blue lips I've seen before, end of shift, come back trembling to kiss my savior fingers. When nonplussed, I grip tighter my skinny latte. When she whispers, leave it for tea, a Maghrabi recipe, I strain, she laughs like sterling silver on bone china, and softly says Maghrib means the Muslim West, and recounts the ingredients: green tea, peppermint, orange blossom water, sugar. She pours and I drink, while the sewing machine of her voice runs along the seam of life beyond life, the moment of strike inside my night, stitched with night. Outside there is the same racket of buyers and sellers, a market bloated with profits I hear when I press for the explosion scene. This one is called King Plays War. King, creeping on all fours, crouches, oily from midnight tryst with cannon makers, on the city wall, studies smoke, studies city, bleeding fruit, blasted limb, circus tent. King's eyes are stitched to his suit. It's war, and sour plums, lilies, guts, clay lamps, broken treaties float on the river. Slick as the bark of cinnamon, he grabs and pockets sparks of gold from the good souls shooting up. Coffins are war's coffers full. So I'm going to read another breathless poem. This one is called, and this one reminds me of your comment, Sharon, about raising kids in this very difficult time. So it's called Dystopia, and these kids that we've been raising over the past few decades have they've grown up on literature of dystopia, and movies about dystopia. And so this one is called Dystopia Looks Like a Schoolgirl. Dystopia looks like a schoolgirl with a perfect braid and rubble for a face. She speaks in the cut-up voice of a generation she will mother with ashen arms. She speaks only when her roller coaster car creaks to the top and civilization hangs. All rust, meat, and more lust. Thanks for the tea, it lasted longer than metal dug and fashioned into bombs with flechettes, which sound like French pastry but feel like flesh hooked to a megaton pull. The collapse, the contract to rebuild a country, and another and another. So yes, the fruit and the blade are never too far from each other on your tongue, but must you, muscle you, to fill your void with dead honeybees, then seek the meaning of sweetness and call it news. Wow. Yes. And so this next poem is a ghazal, and some of you may know the form. It's a poetic form that's written in couplets. It's an ancient Arabic form that came into Persian and Urdu, and then into the American poetic scene in the 60s. So we've had the American ghazal for about 50 years, or more than 50, more than half a century now. So this is my latest book. It's about the ghazal form, and it's got poetry and prose. It's got some details about the history of the ghazal. So this poem that I'm going to read is called Ghazal for the Girl in the Photo. And this is a very famous photo of a refugee, of a girl. Everybody knows this photo, the girl with the green eyes. And the photo is called the Afghan Girl. And for the longest time, no one knew her name, not even the photographer who became famous due to the photo. So Steve McCurry took that photo back in the 80s, and this photo became very famous. And about 20 years later, he went back to find out the name of the subject of the photo. And it was very difficult to find her, because there were a lot of women of the age that she would be at the time. And they finally did a scan of the eyes and found the right person. So this ghazal is about being a nameless refugee. And the couplets are, each one has a sort of a different, it's a poem that's unified by sound rather than theme. So you will hear some repetition, and I am going to read it in the traditional style of the ghazal, so you hear the first line of each couplet repeated. Ghazal for the girl in the photo. You became the girl with the piercing eyes when you found your country swiped by a stranger. You became the girl with the piercing eyes when you found your country swiped by a stranger. In Kabul's snow, a missile turned your mother into coal. Your last tears were wiped by a stranger. A garden once hung from your name like the perfume of wild apple blossoms, phantom tulips. A garden once hung from your name like the perfume of wild apple blossoms, phantom tulips. In the refugee camp, are you sharbat gula, liquor of flowers, or a number typed by a stranger? Your eyes teach how cold flint ignites a flare, how a father's bones become an orphan's roof. Your eyes teach how cold flint ignites a flare, how a father's bones become an orphan's roof. History writes itself clear as cornea, your green glare, no whitewashing, no hype is stranger. Pity the empire that failed to decipher the disdain in your eyes, the hard stare of war. Pity the empire that failed to decipher the disdain in your eyes, the hard stare of war. Pity the first world's pity, the promise of friends who show up as every type of stranger. And here's the last couplet. And the last couplet has the name of the poet embedded in it. So my ghazal name is, my middle name is Zeest. Zeest, return to the arms of memory, the riddle of its minefields, velvet lullabies. Zeest, return to the arms of memory, the riddle of its minefields, velvet lullabies. To the lilt of this land, its lyrical storms, its bells and bagpipes, you're no stranger. And I'm going to read a poem from my collection, Colin Shaw. This This one's called Guantanamo. Some of you know this poem. I read it with Brandon. Brandon Sema and I perform this together. So Guantanamo. A guard forces you to urinate on yourself. Another barks out louder than his dog the names of your sisters who live in the delicate nest of a ruby-throated hummingbird. Each will be a skeleton, he says. Was there someone who gave you 7 almonds for memory, a teaspoon of honey every morning, cardamom tea before bed? Someone who starched your shirts in rice water, then ironed them, held your chin to say the send-off prayer before school. You're tied to a metal coil, and memory is a burnt wire. And I'm going to end with this poem called Notes from My Husband. I showed Yusuf to the amethyst morning when he was born. Kettle drums play 4 at a time, each tuned to play its own note. Each he would swallow whole with my vertical voice in Urdu, and watch with his cardamom eyes the slow flare of Van Gogh's sunflowers, the silk ascent to Victoria's Peak, the concave shine of mango achar. He is slender like pine nuts and keen on butter. Yasin prefers honey and tells me the sun on the front door smells like library soap. I feel the light lathering the knob as I open it. The house is filled with jazz and bagpipes, Iqbal's poems on marble construction paper. We weep in both languages, and anything round is a planet. Thank you.